Sherry, Marcia, listen to us. The handsome black-haired Soch with his dark sweater began. Johnny was breathing heavily, and I noticed he was staring at the Soch's hand. He was wearing three heavy rings. It looked like I looked quickly at Johnny and had an idea dawning on me. I remembered that it was a blue Mustang that had pulled up beside the vacant lot, and Johnny's face had been cut up by someone wearing rings. The Soch's voice broke into my thoughts. I just because we got a little drunk last time, Sherry looked mad. A little? You call reeling and passing out in the streets a little? Bob, I told you I'm never going out with you while you're drinking. And I mean it. Too many things could happen while you're drunk. I mean, it's me or the booze. The other Soch is a guy named Semi-Bio haircut, turned to Marcia. Baby, you know we don't get drunk very often. When she only gave him a cold stare, he got angry. And even if you're mad at us, there's no reason go walking the streets with these bums. Two-Bit looked took a long drag on his cigarette. Johnny slouched and hooked his thumbs in his pockets, and I stiffened. We can look meaner than anything when we want to. Looking tough comes in handy. Two-Bit put his elbow on Johnny's shoulder. Who you calling bums? Listen, greasers, we got four more of us in the back seat. I pity the back seat, Two-Bit said to the sky. If you're looking for a fight, Two-Bit cocked an eyebrow, but it only made him look more cool. You mean if you're looking for good jumping, you outnumber us, so you'll give it to us? Well, he snatched up an empty bottle, busted off the end, and gave it to me. Then he reached in his back pocket, flipped out his switchblade. Try it, pal. No, Sherry cried. Stop it. She looked at Bob. We'll ride home with you. Just wait a minute. Why? Two-Bit demanded. We ain't scared of them. Sherry stuttered. I can't stand fights. I can't stand them. I pulled her to one side. I couldn't use this, I said, dropping the bottle. I could never cut anyone. I had to tell her that because I'd seen it in her eyes when Two-Bit flipped out his switch. I know, she said quietly, but we better go with him, pony boy. I mean, if I see you in the hall or someplace, I'll say hi, but nothing personal. And I don't say hi. Well, it's nothing personal, but I know, I said. We couldn't let our parents see us with you. You're a nice boy and everything. It's okay, I said, wishing I was dead and buried somewhere. Or at least that's why I had a decent shirt on. We aren't the same class. Just don't forget that some of us watch the sunsets too. She looked at me. I could fall in love with Dallas and Winston, she said. I hope I never see him again. Or I will. She left me standing there when my mouth dropped open and a blue Mustang vroomed off. We walked home mostly in silence. I wanted to ask Johnny if those were the same Sochas that had beaten him up, but I didn't mention it. Johnny never talked about it, and we never said anything. Well, those were two good-looking girls if I ever saw any. Two-Bit yawned as we sat down on the curb in the vacant lot. He took out a piece of paper in his pocket and tore it up. What's that? Marcia's number. Probably a phony one, too. I must have been on my mind to try and ask for it. I think as a little soused. So he had been drinking. Two-Bit was smart. He knew the score. Y'all going home? He asked. Not right now, I said. I wanted to have another smoke and watch the stars. And I had to be in by 12, but I had thought I had plenty of time. I don't know why I handed you that busted bottle, Two-Bit said, getting to his feet. You never used it. Maybe I would have, I said. Where are you headed? Gonna play a little snooker and hunt up a poker game. Maybe get rip-roaring drunk. I don't know. See you tomorrow. Johnny and I stretched out on our backs and looked up at the stars. I was freezing. It was a cold night, and all I had on was a sweatshirt and couldn't see stars in sub-zero weather. I saw Johnny's cigarette glowing in the dark and wondered vaguely what it was like burning inside a burning ember. We are, it was because we're greasers, Johnny said, and I knew he was talking about Sherry. We could have hurt her reputation. I reckon, I said, wondering if I ought to tell Johnny what she had said about Dallas. Man, that was a tough car. Mustangs are tough. Big time socias, all right, I said, a nervous bitterness growing inside me. It wasn't fair for the socias to have everything. We were going, we are as good as they were. It's not our fault we are greasers. I could just take it or leave it, like two-bit, or ignore it and love life anyways, like soda pop, or harden myself beyond caring like Daly, or anything, enjoy it like Tim Shepard. I felt the tension growing inside myself and knew something had to happen or I would explode. I can't take much more, Johnny. I can't take much more. Johnny spoke my own feelings. I'll kill myself or something. Don't, he said. I said, sitting up in alarm. You can't kill yourself, Johnny. Well, I won't, but I got to do something. It seems like there's got to be something, someplace without greasers or socias, with just people or plain ordinary people. Out of big towns, I said, lying back down in the country. In the country. I love the country. I wanted to be out of towns and away from the excitement. I only wanted to lie on my back under a tree and a book and draw a picture and not worry about being jumped or carrying a blade or ending up married or some scatterbrained broad with no sense. The country would be like that, I thought dreamily. I would have a yeller cur dog like I used to, and Soda Pop would get Mickey Mouse back and ride it on all the rodeos he wanted. And Derry would lose that cold, hard look he used he used to be 8 months ago before Mom and Dad were killed. Since I was dreaming, I brought Mom and Dad back to life. Mom could bake some more chocolate cakes, and Dad could drive a pickup out early to feed the cattle. We would slap Derry on the back and tell him he was going to be a man, a regular chip off the old block. And there would be as close as there used to be. Maybe Johnny could come live with us and the gang could come out on weekends. Maybe Dallas would see there was some good in the world after all. And Mom would talk to him and make him grin in spite of himself. You're You've got quite a mom, Daly used to say. She knows the score. She could talk to Dallas and keep him from getting into trouble. My mom was golden and beautiful. Pony boy, Johnny was shaking me. Hey, pony boy, pony, wake up. I sat up shivering. The stars had moved. Glory, what time is it? I don't know. I went to sleep too, listening to you rattle on and on. You better get home. I think I'll stay all night. I think I'll stay all night out here. Johnny's parents didn't care if he came home or not. Okay, I yawned. Gosh, but it was cold. What if you get cold or something? Come over to our house. Okay. I ran home, trembling at the thought of facing Derry. The porch light was on. Maybe they were asleep and I could sneak in, I thought. I peeked in the window. Soda Pop was stretched out in the sofa, sound asleep. But Derry was in the armchair under the lamp reading a newspaper. I gulped and opened the door softly. Derry looked up from his paper. He was on his feet in a second. I stood there, chewing on my fingernail. Where the heck you been? Do you know what time it is? He was madder than I'd seen him in a long time. I shook my head wordlessly. Well, it's 2 in the morning, kiddo. Another hour and I would have had the police out after you. Where were you, pony boy? His voice was rising. We're in the almighty universe. Where are you? It sounded dumb even to me. When I went stammering, I went to sleep in the lot. You what? He was shouting, and Soda Pop sat up and rubbed his eyes. Hey, pony boy, he said sleepily, where you been? I didn't mean to, I pleaded with Derry. I was talking to Johnny and we both dropped off. I reckon I never occurred to me your brothers might be worrying their heads off, afraid to call the police because something like that could get you two thrown in the boys' home quicker than make your head spin. And you were asleep in the lot. Pony boy, what on earth is the matter with you? Can you use your head? You haven't even got a coat on. I felt hot tears of anger, frustration rising. I said I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to, Derry shouted. I almost shook. I didn't think. I forgot. That's all I hear from you. Can't you think of anything? Derry, Soda Pop began. Derry turned on him. You keep your trap shut. I'm of sick and tired of hearing you stick up for him. He should never yell at Soda. Nobody should ever holler at my brother. I exploded. You don't yell at him, I shouted. Derry wheeled around and slapped me so hard that it knocked me against the door. Suddenly, I was deathly quiet. It was deathly quiet. We had all frozen. Nobody in the family had ever hit me. Nobody. Soda was wide-eyed. Derry looked at the palm of his hand where it had turned red, and he looked back at me. His eyes were huge. Pony boy. I turned. I ran out the door, down the street as fast as I could. Derry screamed, Pony, I didn't mean to, but I was at the lot and by then and pretended I couldn't hear. I was running away. It was plain to me that Derry didn't want me around, and I wouldn't say if he did. He wasn't ever going to hit me again. Johnny, I called, and started as he rolled over, jumped up almost to my feet. Come on, Johnny, we're running away. Johnny asked no questions. We went several blocks until we were out of breath. Then we walked. I was crying by then. I finally just sat down on the curb and cried, burying my face in my arms. Johnny sat down beside me, one hand on my shoulder. Easy, pony boy, he said softly. We'll be okay. I finally calmed down and wiped my eyes on my bare arm. My breath was coming in quivering sobs. Got a cigarette? He handed me one and struck a match. Johnny, I'm scared. Well, don't be. You're scaring me. What happened? I never seen you bawl like that. I don't very often. It was Derry. He hit me. I don't know what happened, but I couldn't take him hollering at me and hitting me too. I don't know. Sometimes we get along okay. Then all of a sudden he blows up on me or else is nagging me all the time. He didn't used to be like that. We used to didn't used to be didn't used to be before mom and dad died. Now he just can't stand me. I think it's I like it better when the old man's hitting me, Johnny sighed. At least I know he knows who I am. I walk out of the house and nobody says anything. I walk out and nobody says anything. And I stay away all night and nobody notices. At least you got Soda. I ain't got nobody. Shoot. I said, startling my own misery. I got the whole gang. You got the whole gang. Daly didn't slug you tonight because you're the pet. I mean, golly, Johnny, you got the whole gang. I ain't the same as having your own folks to care about you, Johnny said simply. It just ain't the same. I was beginning to relax and wondered if running away was such a great idea. I was sleeping and freezing to death, and I wanted to be home in bed, safe and warm under the covers, with Soda's arm across me. I decided I would go home and just not speak to Derry. it was my house as much as Darius. If he wanted to pretend I wasn't alive, that was fine with me. He couldn't stop me from living in my own house. Let's walk to the park and back. Then maybe we'll cool off enough for you to go home. Okay, Johnny. Okay, Johnny said easily. Okay, things got to get better, I figured. They couldn't get worse. I was right.